Okay, Shavua Tov, everyone. We're coming out of a very interesting parasha. The life of Sarah, Chayei Sarah. Now, everyone points out, very interesting, that we call the parasha the life of Sarah, Chayei Sarah, but really it talks about her passing, meaning she passed away last parasha. In this parasha, we're bringing her to burial and the whole story that goes with that. So, why is it called the life of Sarah? But before we go into that, I want to give a little bit of an introduction about words and letters in Hebrew. The book that was found about maybe 1,000 years ago, called Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, that speaks about creation of the world, among other things in Kabbalah, is usually referred to as the book that was written by Abraham. So it's a very special book, and in that book it teaches us that that God created the world on 32 netivot chokhmah, 32 ways of wisdom. And one of the ways to look at these 32 ways is be'eser sfirot, on the 10 sefirot that we speak about many times, and 22 otiyot, 22 letters. So, what does it do? So it says that 2 letters create 2 homes, and then 3 letters already create 6 homes, because you can put them in different orders. So what do we want to say about it? I say this many times. It's a way of people to understand. Many people, there's a movie, Matrix, that was created many years ago. It was used by the people that made it are people that learned Kabbalah. Not all of them in the right way, but it has a lot of things that is a simplistic way of putting Kabbalah. And one of the things they show is that everything is made from letters. If you combine letters in one way or another, you create things in the world. Well, that fact has actually truth to it. Again, the way they present it is not reflective, but conceptually, it is very true that letters create everything. Everything in this world is created by letters. What do we say? We say ba'asara ma'amarot nivra olam, that God created the world with 10 different, call it speeches, 10 different words, or ma'amarot, special words that created the world. So the world is created by Hashem's words. Now, why is that so important to us? What do we do with this knowledge? So the one thing that we can do with it is that we take a word in Hebrew and we can look at it from many different aspects and many different ways. And this way we're showing how we can learn different things from it. So the 22 letters, there are several ways to interchange letters and switch letters around, but there's also sfirot. You can put things in different orders, in different ways, to also create beautiful partsufim, a full picture of knowledge. So in order to learn a lot, we can learn this from looking at the Hebrew words and the Hebrew letters and making special things from them by learning them either individually with every letter or as a whole, as a word, as a special word, etc. Now, I will take a second to say that also in English, the words have special meanings, but it's not as deep. Meaning, just like in everything in the world, there's a special meaning to events and to places and to people, etc. There's also the words in English and obviously other languages have special meanings to them. But the depth of the Hebrew letters is infinite, meaning that's how the world was created. So it has a special meaning and special learnings that we can do with these different letters. So with that introduction, we'll see a couple things. First of all, we're gonna take the word "can," meaning Rav Ginsburg, the first shiur in this week's Wonders, speaks about the word "can," a simple yes. But as we can see in Hebrew, the word can have many different meanings, and we can look at them in different ways. Where do we find the word can in the previous parasha? Where the messengers, they came to Abraham, and he says to them, Ki al ken avartem al avdechem. So you can't say because it is yes, but you have to say because of this, and we'll explain in a second what does he mean by this, you passed by here. What Abraham was telling them is, you were meant to come to be my guests. And I know this because from the beginning of time, from the 6 days of creation, you were created in order to come into my house. Ki al ken. So what does the word "can"? What do we learn from this word? That they were prepared. They were made for this. They were made and prepared for being guests at the house of Abraham. Now, this is very special to us because we know that one of the things that the Baal Shem Tov that came to teach us is that everything in this world was meant to be, and not only was it meant to be, it was meant to be in the way that it is, so that it fulfills the creation. So this is a beautiful way of seeing it, where Abraham is telling them, you were meant to come to me. You were meant to come be my guest. But we see that the word "can" is used in a way of prepared and meant to be. Now, if we look at it, it also they answer him. What do they say? Ken ta'aseh kasher dibarta. You should do as you spoke, or this is brought again by a not so nice guy, by Pharaoh, that he tells them that you have to leave, I think, and they answer him, yes, that's the way it should be. Now, Rashi says in the "ken," there are three meanings. Emet, that it's true, meaning the deeper meaning of "ken," when someone tells you something and you say yes, what you mean to say is what you're saying is true. He's saying a statement. For example, you can say a statement that the nation of Israel is meant to leave from Egypt. So first thing you can say, is it true or not true? And when you say "can," when you say yes, you're saying it's true. That's the inner meaning. Then there's the outer meaning that Rashi says, Yafeh dibarta. As people like to say, nice, very nice. You spoke nicely, you spoke beautifully. Beauty, again, is an exterior way of looking at something. It's very nice. So your words are beautiful. Many times people say the beautiful words. Okay, so yes, obviously there are also the inner depth of beautiful words. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, you have politicians or other nice speakers that say something. They say beautiful things, but they're very much not true. So obviously, we don't want that. We want the inner side of truth, of emet, to be connected to the other side of beauty. So we want that to go together. And the third thing that Rashi says, the middle part is Bizmano dibarta, in the right time. So there's saying the truth, saying it at the right time, and saying it beautifully. If people remember the three ways of Kabbalah of looking at things that the Baal Shem Tov taught us, is Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. The world as places, the time as years, and Nefesh, the souls, the Neshama. And you can see that, first of all, Shana, the time is time. You're saying it in the right time. You want to say something in the right time. Olam, the place to say it is the, I think that's the part of truth. And then Nefesh is beautiful. Or maybe the opposite. And Nefesh is true. But in any case, you can see the same combination here. That when someone says something and you want to confirm it, you're saying "ken," You're confirming it in three ways. First of all, that it's true. That's the inner part. Then that you're saying it at the right time. Meaning you can say true and beautiful things, but you're saying them at the wrong time. So you're saying it at the right time and they're beautiful. So that's another way of looking. Again, what Rav Ginsburg is trying to do is show beautiful things that come from the word ken. And obviously he puts them, we're not going to put everything in the right places, but different ways of looking at them based on sfirot. Now, the word ken, this year, we're learning the Kol Simcha from Bunim from Pshista. And he said that when you want to learn this ken, this yes meaning, you have to look at another word that comes from yes. The word is kenim, honest. The word honest comes from ken. And who says that they're honest? Kenim ayu avdecha, lo ayu avdecha meraglim. We're honest, your servants. The brothers, when they're caught in Egypt, and Yosef is telling them that you're spies, he says, no, we're true. That true is etzem hadavar v'kiyumo. The core part of it and the way it comes out, that's kenim, that's honesty. Honesty also comes from the word ken. Now, we can see very interestingly that in the story of creation, Hashem only says ken. He doesn't say, the word no, lo, is not brought in the story of creation. There's only vayhi chen, and it became that way. Meaning ken, yes, or correct, or confirming, we did have that. You could almost say that creation could not stand if God would say no. It has to be yes. Right after creation, when the story of mankind and all the stuff that happened in the Garden of Eden, that we had lo. But the actual story comes from ken. Now, there's a question, and we'll talk about it shortly, but the question comes is that Hashem says, that I gave you all the land and the fruits to eat, vayichen. And the question becomes, what does that mean, vayichen? What happened here? What is this commandment that you can eat fruits? And the answer, and this is something deep, but if we look at it in a simple way, is that before Hashem said that something becomes food, it was not meant to be food, and it was not edible. It's like eating a stone. Where do we see that? We see that in the call it in the vegetarian way of the world. The world was created when Adam and Eve and Cain and Hevel and the first generations, all the way until the Mabul, until Noah's Ark and the flood, and after that the Korbanot. The world never ate flesh. It was no one not even animals, no one in creation thought that you can eat another creature as meat. It wasn't an option. It wasn't a sin. It wasn't something that you're not allowed to do. It was just like saying to someone, you're not allowed to eat stone. Yeah, no one eats stone. It's not an option. Very interestingly, we say that at the end of days, the trees themselves, not the fruits of the tree, but the trees themselves would be edible. So we can see that Hashem has a way of making things that are in the beginning not edible, making them edible. And how did he do that? He did that in this pasuk where he says, Vayhi chen, and it will be so, and then food became food. So again, there's many different ways to look at the word ken, as we brought a few. But I wanted to bring this to you, even though it's a very long one. Rav Ginsburg continued to explain it in several different ways, and I didn't put it together as well. But conceptually, what we wanted to show is how you can take words and look at them from different perspectives. for example, here the word "can," you can look at it from the perspective that Abraham said that it was meant to be from the days of creation. You can look at it as the words of the brothers, as kenim, as honesty. It's etzem adavar. That's the way it should be. You can look at it in ken taseh kasher dibarta, that it should be true, should be at the right time, it should be beautiful. So many ways of looking at this word, and when you look at it from these different ways, you can learn from each way. So that's again, there's a lot more on this topic in Rav Ginsburg's Shir this week, in the wonders of Chayei Sarah. And as always, I urge people to look into it. But we started by talking about the life of Sarah, Chayei Sarah. And we know she lived me'ashana, she lived 137 years, but it started by the word 100. And the Noam Elimelech says, what does this 100 refer to? It says that every person should say 100 blessings every day. And the 100 blessing is referred to as the 100 pillars that held the Mishkan. That the pillars that held the temple, Mishkan and the Mikdash, the pillars, Adanim, were 100. So you can see that you can hold a building, you can hold Hashem's world by saying 100 blessings. And those 100 blessings are referred to, and again, we're looking at the Jewish and the Hebrew letters of Me'ah, that's Mem, Aleph, and Hey, and taking out the Aleph and saying Ma. Ma is the 45th name of Hashem, 72 ways of looking at the name of Hashem, but the 45th way is the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the way we know most commonly, and it refers to as a way of looking at Hashem in bitul, meaning not looking at anything else. There's nothing else, especially not myself. There's only Hashem. And being in that way, being in bitul, could only be if you're connected to this me'ah. Again, we say 100 blessings, but also 100 refers to that Sarah was 100 years. What that 100 refers to is that she also held the power of the 100 pillars of connection. So that's a beautiful way of looking at it. Now, very interesting that the parasha starts by Vayu Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. And if you take these Chayei, Chet, Yud, Yud, and you move the Chet to the middle, Yechi, we see that at the end of the Haftarah. The Haftarah speaks about the passing of the kingdom from King David to King Shlomo. And the passing happens, the special words that the mother of Shlomo, Bathsheba, says at the end, during the time where David said that my son Shlomo is going to be the king and you can take him and bring him on the wagon, etc., that she said to him, Yechi Adoni HaMelech David, that the king should live. Up until today, many times when there's a switch in kings, you say, long live the king. Yechi, what does that mean? The king in this case, King David, is passing away. But there's a special life that comes to flourishing, a Jewish life. Again, Sarah was the first Jewish woman. There's a special meaning to life if you pass it on correctly. As we know, the famous saying, "B'kiryat arba I Chevron," that Kiryat Arba refers to the law of entropy, that everything dies, everything gets separated to four ways of the world. Anything in this world, it's a law of nature. And Chevron means coming back together. That Sarah knew, even after she passed away, to put things together. Many times it's referred to that she did that by having Yitzchak and Avraham connected so that Yitzchak could be married. Now, Sarah is mainly, even though Chayei Sarah is the life of Sarah, Sarah is mainly spoken about in the previous parashah. But this parashah speaks about the time where Abraham sees the need to marry Isaac, to marry Yitzchak. So he sends his servant Eliezer to go get him a wife. And he goes to the original place of Abraham, and he sees there on the well, and the well is referred to many times by Isaac. We know that there are 10 wells in the story of the fathers, and 6 of them are from Yitzchak. So he had a very special connection to wells, and Eliezer is standing by the well, and he's praying to Hashem, bring me someone. And all of a sudden, what do we see? We see that Rivka comes over and says, yeah, no problem, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of the camels, and she does what needs to be done. Then she takes them to her home, and then the one special time, the most precious time of Rivka's life is when they ask her, they say, no, she should stay. Yeah, it's the right thing, but let her stay, let her get older. And they said, let's ask her. And we all learn from this story that every time a woman gets married, you need to ask her for her opinion. And we learn it from this story. And what did they do? They called Rivka and asked her, do you want to go? And she says, I will go. And Rashi on the spots explains that when she says, I will go, she means, I don't care what you say. Even if you stop me, I'm going to go. Now, how did she go? She went blind. She didn't know who Yitzchak was. I mean, she knew the stories, but she didn't see him. But she knew, she had a sense that this is the right thing to do. And she went all in. Many times in life, a person sees or feels that something is correct for him. And the question is, what should he do? So most times what you tell that person to do is disconnect your emotions, the fact that you're all spiked up, and just be cool about it and take it slow. But there are some times, and this we learn from Rivka, there are special times that you do the opposite. You go all in. You feel something, you know it's the right thing for you, and you say, I don't care what you all say. I am going, in the case of Rivka, I'm going to marry him. And she's very respectful. We see that she falls from the camel, but at the end of the day, she holds her opinion. Where do we see that her opinion is held? I mean, she has a very big argument at the end of days with Yitzchak. She holds of him as the leader of the generation, but still she says that the blessings should go to Jacob. It shouldn't go to Esau. And she doesn't go and argue with him. She goes around and she decides that that's how it should be. And she goes all in. She tells Yaakov is very scared. What will happen if he finds out and he'll curse me? And he says, don't worry, it's on me. You go and do what I said. And she decides, and that decides the future of the Jewish people. Again, it's the just like we just said that the leadership of Isaac becomes a leader right when he marries Rivka. And how do we see that? We see that by Eliezer. Eliezer was the servant of Abraham. But we know that as soon as Rivka was brought to Yitzchak, he says, Hu Adoni, this is my master. And when he said this is, he meant Yitzchak, not Abraham. The generation is switched. Abraham was there. He was there. He enjoyed being old, and he had Ishmael that did tshuva and many years with Yitzchak. But at the end of the day, the leadership of the generation, as soon as Rivka came and he got married, it went to Yitzchak. The Torah switches the focus from Abraham to Yitzchak. And the same thing, the next switch, Yitzchak wanted Esau. Why did he want Esau? Because he said, you got to deal with life, and he's the one that's connected to this world. If we get him to do tshuva, everything will be good. So he wants to go all in on the not so best guy. By the way, just like he went all in on Rivka, lehavdil, but at the end of the day, Rivka also came from a very bad family. So he said, okay, Esau had some bad times. He did some childish things, but let him get some blessings and do tshuva. And Rivka said no. She has a very strong opinion. And her opinion is that it's not going to work. You have to give the blessings to Yaakov. And what that created, let's think theoretically. What happened if Esau would get the blessings from Isaac? Most probably one of his sons will do tshuva and everything else will go away except that son. But what would happen is the flow of the Jewish leadership would not go from one tzaddik, from one righteous father to the other. It could have gone to the wrong way. And she didn't want that. She wanted everything to be right. And her opinion mattered. It mattered to the point that she went all in and she succeeded. And we learn from it. Everyone has a special time in life where they have to go all in, where they have to make a real decision. And you have to know in that time to go above knowledge. Knowledge is in the eyes. And we want to go above the eyes to the forehead, to, as they say, going blind. We know that Rivka went blind for Yitzchak. She didn't see him. But also, she sent Yaakov to get the blessing. Why did he get the blessing this way? Isaac was already blind. And she said, go to him and get the blessings as if you were Esau. The blessings would not come because he saw you. She didn't want to argue with him. She wanted to get it blind. And Isaac says, V'gam baruch yeh, and he'll be blessed as well. He agreed at the end with the scheme that went on. Because at the end of the day, it was meant to be. But the way it was meant to be was above the way we look at things, above the normal way. It was from something above. And that something above comes from the power of Rivka. The Torah says that the best couple, in various ways we can see it, but the Kabbalah says that there are two names. There's the name Ma, the 45th name, and the name Ban, the 52 name. Ma is usually represented by the male side, and Ban is usually represented by the female side. And the best wedding, which represents the whole unity of creation in the right way of these two, is the wedding of Isaac and Rivka. We can see it also by the fact that that Isaac didn't have any other women. Not like Abraham that had Hagar and also Pilagshim, depending on different mefarshim. And Jacob had Rachel and Leah and the Shfachot. So they had many women, while Yitzchak only had Rivka. They were the best couple. The most perfect couple in history is Isaac and Rivka. And there's tremendous amount you can see from it. And it looks like they love games. It says that Elimelech saw Yitzchak metzachek. Metzachek is smiling, but could also be like playing with his wife. And Yitzchak's name is like tzchok. They always play games. They're a very, very cute couple. Lots to learn from it. But again, what do we see? We see that the life, the transfers, in both in the Torah, the transfer between Abraham and Isaac, and the transfer in between King David and King Solomon in Haftarah, is a transferring of life, of yechi, of chayei. And the transfer of life is when you transfer it correctly. You can almost say that when your son does things the right way and takes on your task in life, then you continue living. Then your life continues. When Bathsheba in Haftarah, when she says Yechi Adoni Amelech David, that the king David should live forever, she wasn't just being nice. She was saying that by having King Shlomo, Solomon, be the next king, that's how you, King David, will live forever. Your kingdom, Malchut David, the kingdom of King David, will live forever. Okay, that's a little bit what we wanted to speak about. If anyone has any questions, we can definitely try to answer. Okay, if there's no questions, then everyone should have a very meaningful week. These parashiot in general, the beginning of from the beginning of Torah, from Bereshit and on, beautiful, beautiful things that we can really learn from. I mean, we can learn from every parasha, but especially right now, it's a great time to listen closely in shul and listen when they read Torah. And we should take the strength from our fathers. This parasha is all about Rivka's strength. She does it all. We can all take that strength that when we have the right opportunity, the right time, we should take it and do the right thing. So, call to